Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever time zone you're in, and welcome to the video tutorial on DEAMS and Introduction to Discover a Viewer. So here's the DEAMS homepage. If you've been to the DEAMS training course in residence, you've probably already gone over to your favorites, clicked on Edit Favorites, and added in something similar to right-click Discover a Viewer, DEAMS Discover a Viewer. But if not, down here on the navigator, DEAMS Discover a Viewer is listed right here. It's the one option that's under there, and you'll be able to click it and then go in. The one thing that you want to make sure on DEAMS Discover Viewer is to right-click. It's the one specific profile or navigator option underneath DEAMS in which it opens in this screen. So your DEAMS homepage will be gone, and there's no avenue back into DEAMS. So you're in Discover Viewer. The only way back into DEAMS is to actually close all of your windows and go back in manually. All other screens, iProcurement, or any of the Java-based environments allow you very seamless access back into the DEAMS environment for the HTML's processing. So however, DEAMS Discover Viewer, just make sure you right-click and open it in a new tab, and it will open to a screen very similar to this. Here you have your worksheet list, your search box in which you can search all workbooks, scheduled workbooks or database workbooks. Leave it as all. Don't try and confuse yourself with getting into the weeds there. Just leave it as all, and you're going to search common terms and functions, and we'll do that in just a minute. Down below is your results list. You can refresh that at any moment. You can expand to all, which expands these little triangle icons here, or collapse them all. There's two different options and buttons to expand in DEAMS, and we'll talk about those and show them in just a moment. But this little icon here is a focus icon. It selects it to focus it in. I'll show you an example of that when we run a query. But what it does is it isolates just that workbook in the screen. So it takes away all of everything else and just shows you this. The expand triangle here will expand this below to show the multiple sheets that several different workbooks have to run queries. And depending on what you're looking for is what you need to find. But the first thing you need to do when you set up your DEAMS Discover Viewer is up here in the Preferences button. So go ahead and click on that. When you click on the Preferences button, it's going to open up several different options that you have. The Query Governor is what you need to look at for certain individual items. The first one, warn me if predicted time exceeds. So DEAMS is going to take an idea and a guess based on current server time and say this is how long this query is going to take. Well, if it takes over 60 seconds, it's going to tell me that it needs to warn me. Well, I want it to warn me at 4 minutes, so I'm going to make that 240 seconds. Prevent queries running longer than 1800 seconds. Well, that limits me a little bit to what I really kind of want to do, so I want to make sure that it runs 2400 seconds, because sometimes the servers on some of our queries take a little bit longer in the background. Limit retrieved query data to. Now this defaults to 10,000. If this is only 10,000 lines of data, you run an STH out of DEAMS, for example, and you're going to miss a lot of information. So go ahead and just change this right now to 999,999 lines, and then leave it there. Retrieve data incrementally in groups of 250. You can leave that there. Cast a list of values, retrieval after. None of that needs to be changed. PDF measurement units doesn't need to do their summary at all. But one of the biggest things that's often overlooked is enable fan trap detection. If this is checked, your queries will not run or function. Go ahead and make sure that that is unchecked. It defaults to checked, and occasionally upon DEAMS updates, it will find itself checked again. If you go back into Discover Viewer and try and run standard queries and you cannot do it, this is probably the source of your issue. So now let's just go ahead and click Apply. Once you click Apply, it'll take you back to your worksheet list. So now that our preferences are set up, let's go ahead and run a query. Let's do our status of funds. And in DEAMS, if you think you know something that it relates to, type it in. Status of funds, type in status. Don't be as specific as you need to. Try and drill down. If you're looking for something about 1081s, type in 1081. If you're looking for invoices, type in invoices. It'll allow you to filter it down. And so see, there's a lot of different workbooks that have the name status in it. However, we're only concerned about this, the DEAMS status of funds. Notice there's another one for EOM reporting, but we're not worried about our EOM. We're worried about today's status of funds. So here's that focus and expand icon again. So there, let's focus. So by clicking on the focus icon, it's going to zoom us right down in and only limit us to that one query. All the other queries went away. Notice that when we focused, it expanded all of the sheets underneath. So you can collapse and expand from the prior screen as well to see what else is underneath. And you need to go to the next screen. So we're just going to choose Detail All Columns. I like to see everything and use Excel to filter it down and out. Now that this is open, you'll see a little parameters list. Every query or workbook in DEAMS Discover Reviewer will have parameters. To run a good status of funds, I'm only going to concern myself with the current fiscal year. In order to do that, part of the fund, which is the appropriation symbol, the fiscal year, and either D or R for direct or reimbursable, I'm just going to look for anything that applies to the current fiscal year of 16. Then your OE is just F for Air Force, 41 is my OAC for Air National Guard, and L1 is my OBAN for the 115th Fighter Wing. Everything else has an opportunity to further limit my data, but I just want current 16, O&M, MilPers, any other funding that applies to 16, and click Go. Now you're just going to be able to run it in the background and see when it exports. Alright, so now we have a successful run. We know that because if it's unsuccessful, there will be a little bar up here. Say I typed in 17 instead of 16. There would be a bar up here that says current data does not exist for this query. Now down here you can see that it ran all of our status of funds, and if you want just a quick, brief introduction, notice that you can go all the way down to the bottom and you can see the total lines. So now you know that you can balance that. However, understand that there's no TOA, so be careful. But over here there's an export button under actions, and that's where we're going to click. Now you want to choose your export type. Several different options, but you just want to choose the Microsoft Excel workbook. Page will refresh, and then you click export. Now depending on your query, this could take a little while for it to prepare the export. So when you click export, what it's going to do in the background is it's going to start to work to give you a little button. When that button is available, click to view or save. In DEAMS, you always want to save as. Don't open it. Sometimes it slows down the server and it can lock up your computer. So now you're going to either save it over something, or if you've run this query before, or just save it somewhere that you like to commonly use your files associated with your status of funds. Yes, I'm going to save right over top of it. It will run the download and below the screen, and now I can open. When every DEAMS query opens, you're going to have to enable content. So go ahead and click on that, and this macro that's in the background will run and format the text. So now that we've run it, notice that now the headers are aligned. There's some lines in the functionality of the chart itself, and now that we have some other data. Now with Excel, and if you don't know this, you'll hear me say it a lot in our tutorials, your header line, or the top line here for every column name, needs to be in column or in row 1. So we're going to eliminate row 1 and 2 just by highlighting and turning your icon into the little arrow. We're left clicking and dragging down until both are highlighted, and then right click and delete. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hold the control button and click down. That'll take us to our last row of data. And in the last row though is the total line. So it's the very next line is 189 on this series. So just do the same thing. Highlight, right click, and delete. And then just click Control and Home. And we're going to take right back up to the top. Go ahead and save that. One thing that you want to get used to in DEAMS is to convert the file. It will drastically reduce the file size because right now it's saved as a 97 2003 Excel version. So go ahead and click Convert. This will open into the same location that you previously saved it, but now it's going to say that it's saving as an Excel macro enabled workbook. Just go ahead and click Save. And that is running the status of funds for DEAMS and all Discover Viewer setup. Thank you for watching the video tutorial. Look forward to seeing you again.